So test. Let's see if this works. Okay, say something. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Great.
Perfect. Oh shit, we're live already. Let me just go see. Let's see.
If you go to your profile, yeah.
Yeah, right here, and then see. Yeah,
Wait,
we can.
let's see. Let's check that out.
See, you can't make a comment. Like you can't comment on Twitter. Let me see on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Let's see, how do I check? Maybe I'm live. Do I have to switch account?
Is this, by the way, also being recorded?
I think so. I think so. Channel. Oh man, I gotta go all the way through this.
Can't you just do like Control F for find?
Control F. AI of Alex. No, no, it just shows me that. What was it? How was it? Fuck. Um, how do I check? I'm trying to remember how I checked. Um, mm, Let me check Twitch. Um, okay, it shows that on. Let me see. Is this the chat? Hello. Let me see if it shows it on the Oh yeah, it shows it on the restream. Okay, good. Okay, good. All right, that's all I wanted to know. Because now it's like when people comment either on Twitch, on YouTube, it will show like it'll be from Twitch or from YouTube or from Twitter. But you can't even make comments on Twitter, so it'll just be YouTube and Twitch.
Right.
We
I
got
mean,
one
that's good.
viewer. Oh, we got one viewer on Twitch. Well, hello.
Hello there. I mean, that's pretty cool.
What's it called?
In before, it's Kobe. Then we get like 50K just for streaming.
Oh shoot. So, all right, let's start now. What do you want to talk about?
I mean, I guess Bancor is the obvious one of today.
Oh yeah, let me actually go on that. Man, let's see, like that's yeah. The scene how they could just like that. I was thinking about that because like I was telling my girlfriend like like essentially you got out at the right time because like
Yeah.
even if you click withdraw right and you had a like it gave you that 7 day wait period like the
Yeah.
cooldown period like like you still don't get the withdrawal. So like
Yep.
so they literally promised
They
like
pretty much hold your funds hostage.
yeah
That's what it is. Kind of like, yeah, that's the thing, right? I saw someone comment like uh if you basically have to sometimes pause or like yeah, pause the impermanent loss, then you never had impermanent loss, right? Because then
Exactly.
it's pretty much the same as a Uniswap curve. Because of course, like there will be times where you don't suffer impermanent loss on Uniswap.
Hmm.
Um, but Bancor essentially what they're doing now is just like, yeah, fuck, now we're actually suffering impermanent loss, so we'll temporarily pause it, and if things get better, you get you're protected again. But
That's so messed up.
yeah, that's that's not really impermanent loss protection. Then it's kind of like, yeah, I don't even have a better name for it. It's just not impermanent loss protection. And the thing that I wanted to talk about is kind of the death spiral thing that
Yeah.
could also with Bancor, which is basically when, let's say, one of the bigger pools um, on Bancor would, like, that asset would gain in price relative, like how much is it now? I can't really see. Like 50 cents,
Yeah, it's at 53 cents right
53.
now.
I mean, okay.
Jeez.
But anyways, like if one of the bigger pools, if that one asset would gain in price, so not BNT, but like another one, um, then essentially to match that liquidity, a lot of Banker would have to be minted, right? And let's
Right.
assume that just goes super quickly, and not really over the span of just like gradually, right? But
Hmm.
super quickly. Then a lot of Banker has to be minted, or BNT has to be minted. And basically, yeah, the more BNT tokens there are, the the less the price will be, right? That's just basic
Right.
supply and demand. So then, because then theoretically the price is going to be lower, if that asset keeps rising, then also more BNT again has to be minted to
Exactly.
keep up for the inflation. And I mean, yeah, that's just kind of a constant loop then, that where you just have a death spiral. Um, and I'll say I'm not entirely sure if that could happen as easily in V3, since you don't have separate pools anymore. You have like one big pool where every asset is just matched against this one big pool of BNT, and not like there used to be separate pools for every asset where you would have like one pool would be Link BNT, and then um, like ETH BNT and WBTC BNT. So they're uh, they're kind of, the impact on the price, I guess, of BNT would be bigger, since you just have that separate. So I'm not sure if that um, kind of liquidation risk, or not liquidation risk, that spiral risk is as big in V3. But I think it's pretty telling that now, because of quote unquote market conditions, they have
Right.
passed the whole impermanent loss thing. So yeah, I'm glad I got out a few weeks ago. And I also received some messages from a guy who, like, I warned in a Discord, like, yeah, I would take out your stuff from BNT a few weeks back, and he was super glad that he did so. I mean,
Yeah, man,
good for him.
that's nuts. Like, in I've seen something from Chain and God talking about like, oh yeah, like the reason that Bancor did this is because Celsius had a ton of BNT and a ton of assets
Yeah,
in Bancor, and
I
like that.
saw it, but yeah, honestly, my opinion about this is, I mean, Chainlink God is a smart guy. We don't have to even discuss that, because that's not up for discussion. He's definitely a smart guy, but at this point, that's just a weak excuse in my opinion, because
Yeah.
things are just not permissionless or kind of immutable if without any kind of community vote or anything, something like Banker can just say, all right, yep, well, yeah, sorry guys, we've kind of paused your withdrawals, or not, they didn't pass the withdrawals, right? But basically you would be fucked right now, if you took out, let's say, for example, your link. I think the past few days there were people. Um, okay, so for everyone who doesn't know, basically, if you take out your, let's say, link, right? When I did it a few weeks back, I
Mm,
got back like 75% of my stack that I had put in there in Link, and then 25% I got back in BNT. And theoretically, this should not really be a problem, as you could just instantly sell BNT again for the asset that you provided. So I did that, and then theoretically you have back around 100% of your stack minus the fees, which are
mhm.
not like huge, but they're still uh, more than I would like. But that's another discussion. Um, but what I heard from people now, a few days back already, or last week, um, kind of the ratio was already between something like 60% link and 40% BNT that you would get
Mm,
back. And again, this is not really a problem, um, if you can just immediately sell the BNT on the open market. But
right,
in a situation like this, it's basically because the BNT part that you get back makes up for the impermanent loss that you
right.
would have on your, in this example, link, right? But what would happen in this case, essentially, let's just assume the ratio is still close to like 60%, 40%, which I think is probably lower. I think it's probably 50-50, if not even BNT is maybe now a bigger percentage. But
Yeah,
let's still assume it's like 60-40 link BNT, right? Then basically what they're saying is, all right, yeah, you can take your link out. That's yours to keep, but that 40% in BNT, yeah, no, sorry, we can't pay you that because we've passed the impermanent loss protection. So
right.
basically, you just either stay in there, um, and hope that at some point they're gonna turn back on the impermanent loss protection, um, but then also having the risk that, all right, what if this is the moment that that the whole protocol fails? Then if you stay in there, you might risk losing your entire link stack, right? Or whatever kind of asset you have paired in there. um,
Right.
or you say, all right, yeah, I think the protocol is basically doomed right now, and I would rather take out anything that I have left than just waiting maybe until nothing is left anymore. And then
Literally.
you have to take everything out with a 40% loss, while Banker was specifically the protocol that promised you that you could provide liquidity in a way that was super easy, um, and basically you wouldn't have to worry about anything, and that's not the case anymore.
No,
And
it's not. And
I
it's
mean,
I don't know.
yeah, it's sad to see because I mean, I was a fan of Banker for quite a long time because it was so easy. um,
Right.
I've provided liquidity in there a bunch of times, and I mean, like I said, it was so easy, and it was probably the easiest uh, thing there was in DeFi, in terms of not really having to think about um, yeah, keeping up with impermanent loss and anything like that. You don't have the more complex curves or anything that you have in Uniswap v3. But yeah, it's kind of sad because first of all, I was looking forward to v3. I mean, I've told you that multiple times, and I think
Yeah.
the V3 design also looks much, much better than V2. Everything was super clean, super easy. Um, but yeah, I don't really see how they can come back from this because already they're not such a really big DEX. I mean, they were the first, and they always like to claim that. And I mean, good for them for kind of designing the AMM. Um,
But not even
but
multi-chain too.
yeah, it's not multi-chain, which obviously holds a lot of people back who can't pay the ETH fees, although
Right.
they're nowadays quite a bit lower than they were last year. Fortunately, although that has more to do with bad market sentiment than anything else, I think.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I don't really see how they can come back from this because
It's
yeah, if
hard to.
yeah, basically their biggest selling point was the impermanent loss, and
Literally, no, yeah.
anyone with half a brain cell now understands that. All right, yeah, if if impermanent loss protection is not even a guarantee anymore, then why would I provide liquidity there? And that was that was kind of the one thing they had going for them, that certain communities, like for example the Chainlink community, um, were super confident in
Right.
Bancor, and so Bancor had the biggest Chainlink liquidity, for example, of all the dexes, I believe, and
Yeah.
um, that might not be the case anymore. I think after what happened today, so if they also don't really have the liquidity on even specific assets like Link anymore, then like who's gonna trade on their platform? It won't be from aggregators because aggregators choose the best prices and liquidity. So
Hmm.
then, yeah, I don't really know who would trade on their platform honestly anymore. And it's sad
Hmm.
because, like I said, it was nice, but I guess yeah, the saying goes like if you don't know where the yield comes from, you're the
Yeah.
yield, right? And
Right.
I think that's usually true, and then but it can be a little bit of an oversimplification, right? So in this case, um, I guess it's also true, but it's I would kind of make the change like if you don't know where the yield is coming from, or if the yield is basically if the yield is higher than other places, and especially if it seems super safe, then you probably don't understand some critical aspect,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and
Very true.
that is super risky in crypto. So yeah,
They like my problem is that like they cut the supposed coverage of impermanent loss as soon as it was mainly needed. Like these are the market conditions where you would need the impermanent loss, and as soon
exactly, exactly.
and as soon as like the conditions shift, now it's like, oh yeah, no, we have to pause it. If you have to pause it during conditions like this, then like you never had it. Like it
Yeah,
then it's like I don't know. It doesn't really make sense, and I don't really think they're gonna come back from this. Like if like they do, enable it, you know, whenever they do, everybody's just gonna withdraw because they don't want Bancor to stop it again. So
yeah,
it's like,
I mean, yeah, like I said, anyone with half a brain cell is not gonna want to keep their money in there anymore. And it's sad because, like I said, it was super well designed, the new version. I mean, they basically went from one of the uglier UIs in
yeah,
crypto, in my opinion. Their V2 and V1 was not that well designed. I mean, ugly is not even the right word because it wasn't super ugly, to be honest, but it was just not, also not a good UX because um like especially I think like a year ago you would go on their website and the first thing you would land on would not be the swap page as it is with
mm-hmm.
Uniswap, for example, right? Like it would be the
Right,
liquidity provision page. And while that is good and that was what most people were going to Bancor for, I mean, liquidity providers don't get you revenue. that's pretty much what it comes down to, right? Like liquidity providers don't really get you swap fees. I mean, you
Right.
do need liquidity to attract traders,
To
but
then get those fees, yeah.
yeah, traders at the end of the day pay the swap fees. So
Exactly.
um, yeah, after a while they did change that so that you landed on a page where you could choose between trading or liquidity provision. So that's already better. But I mean, their V3 was just like 1,000 times better in pretty much all design aspects, right? Like it was so easy to use and
Yeah.
super clean looking. So yeah, it's sad, but maybe the only way I could see this coming back would be if like the next phases. I think they have. I think this is phase like the first phase of version 3. Maybe if the second phase and the third phase are like these spectacular things that are super innovative, then maybe they can come back. And it's weird because I think in terms of price, there hasn't even really been um, something close to that spiral. I mean, it's been going down, but just with the general market. But if you look at it, like
That's the
it's
thing, it stopped briefly because they paused it. Because if they let it keep kept going, then like everybody withdrawing would get the percentage in BNT, and they would just sell it off, and they
yeah,
would keep selling it off. And like whatever is going on with Celsius is true, and Celsius was supposedly like pretty much withdrawing like millions constantly, and they were pretty much dumping the BNT that they would get when they would draw. Then yeah, I would have we would have definitely seen like the BNT token go straight to zero, and
right, yeah.
that's really nuts. And like yeah, I mean it goes to show that like impermanent loss like it's still a problem, like it's still something to be solved, and that honestly it makes me pretty bullish on Alliance Block just because how they're trying to tackle it, and like hopefully they can learn from this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to see um, kind of what are the mechanics behind their implementation of impermanent loss protection, because I'm wondering more and more if some problems are not I mean, unsolvable. That sounds maybe a bit pessimistic, but I think it might be a bit similar to what you see with all the alt layer ones, right? Like
Mm.
a lot of people, for example, especially like the past year was kind of like the year of alt layer ones, which was great in a lot of aspects, right? Because the fees on Ethereum were getting crazy, and um, I mean, most people, including myself, couldn't really afford anymore to trade on Ethereum layer one. Yeah, maybe unless it was super necessary for something, but like paying $100 in fees is usually for most people not really a viable option.
Right.
So it was great to see things like Avalanche and also layer twos, but yeah, things like Avalanche pop up. And I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Solana because they they have so much downtime, but I guess for a lot of people that was also good because it was so cheap. But the thing is, especially these alt layer ones, not so much the layer twos now that I'm talking about, but the layer ones, they pretty much all compromised on some aspect um, of a kind of a core blockchain principle, right? Whether that be security or decentralization.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, for example, I believe with Avalanche, um, they're they they don't really think about the data availability layer, which just results in less decentralization, I guess, in a way, because um, people require way bigger machine, or way more they're obviously not a proof of work blockchain, but way more capital to run a validator as opposed
Right.
to Ethereum. So Yeah,
No,
I think it might be one of those problems where someone will think, "Hey, I found a shortcut," and then after a long enough period, it turns out like, yeah, no, this is still kind of a fundamental problem to this concept. So now I'm talking about like impermanent loss being kind of a fundamental concept with AMMs, right? So
right.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think Bancor really showed that um, yeah, at least their solution wasn't working,
Yeah.
um, which is a shame because obviously it would be nice if they did find a working solution. And I mean, it worked for long enough, but eventually,
And
um,
so it didn't.
yeah, yeah, exactly. The same thing obviously happened with Luna, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's great if things go well for as long as they go well, but if something's just not well enough designed to the point where basically if you know the protocol well enough, you know that there's a real risk of the whole thing crashing down, then in my opinion, especially in a market as well as crypto that's so volatile, that basically really tests, or at least has the potential to really test the limits of these protocols. And
Yeah.
so if there is kind of a upper or lower bound where if it goes beyond that, like it's probably gonna break, then I'm pretty sure the crypto markets will test that limit at some point. And it might not be today, might not even be this year, but um, yeah, I think
Man,
eventually weak protocols just
yeah.
come crashing down.
Hey, did you see that? What happened with like Solend? It's like an Aave fork, you can say, on Solana. Like there was like a whale with like 170 million Sol as collateral, and he took a loan of 108 million in stablecoin. And
And then
like,
took it all out.
yeah, no, yeah, it's a lot. But the thing is, like the protocol, like they had a vote to they pretty much like had a community vote, and they pretty much said like, oh yeah, we want to be able to take control of this whale's funds to then be able to sell it in OTC, because then like otherwise they wouldn't be able to like liquidate the whale because there
Right,
wasn't enough
right.
liquidity. And like the thing is, like when they had the vote, it showed right here like like the one that had like the most like weight in their vote
Yeah.
was like this big whale that pretty much said yes. So like it literally like this is not decentralization right here, and it
Yeah,
just
no.
showed like it was someone that like clearly would benefit off of pretty much having like the protocol take control of the whale's funds. So like it's crazy to like see something like this happening, and like especially in some it's a lot. I mean, it's not surprising, but like it's just not good look for Solana overall, honestly.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Solana
Yeah.
because they have so much downtime. And uh some people might say like, yeah, it's just growing pains because they're a young company or blockchain or whatever, and they'll solve it. But I'm not so sure about that, and I'm not saying it's completely useless,
Hmm.
because I mean it might still be useful to people who can pay the high fees,
Right. Yeah.
which is fair enough. But to me, if you can even rely on a blockchain being running up and running all the time, in other words, you'll be sure that you can, yeah, move your money around as you please. Then it's almost like, what's the point of having your money on a blockchain then, right? Because that's one of the, yeah, the most core fundamental things for me at least in blockchain, um, that you can do with your money as you wish. But if it's
Exactly.
kind of similar to like a traditional bank where it's like, yeah, sorry, on the weekends we don't do business. So I mean, with banks even you can still of course buy things. It's just that then the money won't be received
Right, right.
until it's like a business day again. Um, but I mean, I'm not saying it's entirely that, but it's somewhat similar in the sense that maybe it's even worse, right? Because you don't know even when Solana goes down. If it was just like, all right, on weekends Solana doesn't work, that's at least something
Yeah.
you can calculate for. But now it's just like, all right, yeah, I needed to do this big business transaction today, but I guess I'll have to wait till maybe tomorrow, maybe next week because
Shit.
Solana's down. So I don't know.
And that's the thing in this scenario, like Solana went down because the liquidators were spamming like the liquidate function, trying to
Yeah,
liquidate this whale, and like that's insane. Like it's like something like that can cause the entire blockchain to go down.
yeah,
Like man, it reminds me of like Cardano when like they were having troubles with like their dexes or whatever, and like it
yeah.
like like because of the traffic, and like it like pretty much caused the chain to go down. But like yeah, it's interesting to see how like this is literally just people are just trial and erroring, like just figuring it out as they go, like pretty much with their implementation for like how they structure their blockchain or whatever they're gonna build even on top of a blockchain. Now you have to really like see what would be the best in regards to security, not just because it's faster or because the fees are less. Like you really got to consider security because look, like just because it was faster and the fees are lower doesn't mean like everything's good. Like it's causing a lot of problems for not just like users, but like the owners of the projects,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah, I mean,
it's crazy.
yeah, it's just the classic blockchain trilemma, right? Like if you
Yeah.
skip out on this one thing, or if you think you found the golden solution to this one thing,
Mhm.
chances are fairly high that you didn't, basically. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited to see what Ethereum 2.0 brings, and then also with sharding. Basically the kind of the modular blockchain thesis I think is fairly interesting. And one guy that I follow, I think his name is something like Rain and Coffee. Yeah, Rain and Coffee has written quite a lot about this, or at least a few articles, where he basically explains that if you have like a modular blockchain, then then scaling issues might be less, right? Or
Right.
basically you'll be able to scale more. So with sharding, Ethereum will be modular, and right now I think the closest thing to a modular blockchain are Polkadot and
Yeah.
Avalanche, but they're only somewhat partially modular, as far as I understood from his articles. And then there's this other one, that I think works in tandem with the Cosmos ecosystem, but that hasn't come out yet. But that's Celestia, and that's supposed to be fully modular right from the get go. So uh, that is, I think, supposed to go live in yeah, somewhere next year, 2023. Um, so that's probably already sooner than we get Ethereum sharding. But I mean, the thing is also what I saw in regards to kind of the Ethereum versus other layer ones debate. I saw someone mention a good point that what people often fail to overlook is that um, actually the more different alt layer ones there are, the stronger the position for Ethereum becomes, right? Because Ethereum
Right.
already has like the largest market share. That's just a fact. That's not really a debate or anything. Um, and then you let's say you had only three layer ones, right, including Ethereum. Let's say there were
Mm.
only, apart from Ethereum, you only had Avalanche and Solana. Then it's fairly easy for a blockchain to compete because they only have two competitors, right?
Yeah,
For each of them. But if there's like 50 different outlayer ones, then all of those are competing for users and for liquidity. That's maybe even the
that's
most
true.
essential part. And pretty much all of them are also uh, yeah, having the same unique selling point, which therefore doesn't becomes not so unique anymore, which is just like, yeah, we're faster and we're cheaper than Ethereum. And so all these, yeah, all these layers have to kind of compete for liquidity. um, but at a certain point, if there's only kind of a minimum threshold for liquidity, then people are not gonna use that chain, right? Like if there's, let's say, if there's so many different chains, that there's only like 5 million of liquidity on each chain, apart from
Right.
like the major funds still being on Ethereum, then no one's gonna use these other chains because for like a lot of bigger players, 5 million on any given chain is not enough to trade against in anything. So
Yeah,
um
that's very true. That's
yeah,
that's it's me really interesting to see, especially with like Chainlink and CCIP. Like it's really gonna change the perspective, even for like a builder and a user, for like how they will utilize, blockchains essentially. Where it's like if it's a builder, it's like, okay, now you don't need to worry about which chain to build on, or which chain has the most security, or the fastest speed, all these different things, all these different components, right? Now you just need to worry about like just building and just like
yeah,
essentially just deploying it on essentially CCIP. But like it's gonna be interesting when it comes to like the user's perspective, because like the different products is like the different new projects is gonna be created from that point is gonna be completely different from what we see today. So like it's gonna be really interesting to see how like the user's perspective will change, and how they will go about using, you know, everything that's in the blockchain space right now.
yeah. I wonder how that will turn out because
Yeah,
I have to say, like, there are some fairly big brains who are kind of critical about multi-chain thing unless it's done in a kind of modular
yeah,
blockchain environment. And um, I'll be the first one to say that I haven't looked too much into how CCIP works. That so I can't talk too much about that. But what I do know is that there, as far as I understand it, it's not like they would only work within kind of Ethereum things, right? So it wouldn't be
exactly.
so, yeah. So because that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing of CCIP. So um, you could have kind of an multi-chain, or multi-chain might not be the right word, but kind of a interoperable thing. If you have like a modular blockchain, where all the different things within that modular blockchain are interconnected, but basically at the base layers, at like the data availability layers, Ethereum doesn't share the same data availability layer as Avalanche or Cosmos or
Mm.
Solana. So I wonder how they would do that, because right now obviously the solution is bridges. And I mean, bridges are useful. That's obviously already proven. Like
But
um
they're risky.
yeah, they're pretty risky if you think about it. Like the other day I was looking at maybe a place to park your USDC somewhere, right? Or any kind of stable coin. And there was
Mm.
this, um, I think it was the seller bridge who provided the highest kind of stable liquidity. And with stable, I don't mean stable coins, but or I said liquidity, but I mean API, APY. But so let's say that was around 8 to 10%, right?
Right.
But with stable, I mean that it's expected, or at least by the metrics of DeFi Llama, that it would stay that way for like the next foreseeable future.
Yeah.
um but then you have to think about like, all right, yeah, do I really want to put my money in this for, let's say, 8%, while there might be a real risk of losing all my funds if this thing gets hacked? And
Right. Yep.
yeah, even if it's, let's say, 10%, right? Then you have to think about that. Like, all right, so let's say after half a year you would lose that. Um, Basically, how long would it, or after a year? Doesn't even matter, but you would need to think about what you're trading. And I think you're willing to take either, or you're either willing to take 10%, but the way I would look at it is like, how high is the APY? And then um, if you multiply that, how many years does it take you to make that back? If
Exactly.
your shit gets hacked, like if the smart contract gets hacked, and even with 10%, that would then take you 10 years to make
Yep.
your initial back. Um, and obviously that's not including compounding returns, so it's maybe less. But I'm like, yeah, no, I probably don't want to do that, to be honest. Unless, I mean, if I would learn how to code and then I could check the smart contract myself, then I might feel more secure. But
Right.
yeah, in most cases, I think if people really thought about the risks, then they would realize like, holy shit, no way, this is so fucking risky. I don't want to put my shit
Exactly.
into smart contracts.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like even 10 years is like a long time horizon in the crypto space. So like hoping that you'd be good for those 10 years is like, yeah, good luck with that. Like
Yeah,
you, yeah, there
like,
needs to be like that's why I look at like if I'm looking for like yield, like even ETH staking has like a higher chance of like being sustainable for the 10 years, right? Like
yeah,
you could see that yield like for the next 10 years, so you don't have to worry because of essentially like like what you're pretty much doing, the utility. It's not just like you essentially providing stablecoin you liquidity on like on a DEX or on a bridge. It's not just that. It's more than just that, and that's how people got to start looking at yield. It's like how you said in the beginning. Like if you don't know what the yield is, where the yield is coming from, then it's coming from you,
yep,
right? So yeah, man.
yeah.
Oh shoot,
But
this
maybe,
been a.
what?
Oh no, I was gonna say this is great so far. To be honest, it was a good
Yeah,
first
yeah.
stream.
I was gonna say like, yeah, maybe let's end it here for today. But I
Yeah,
think this was definitely a good stream.
yeah, man. I'm excited to do the next one.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely. All right, I'm gonna do it right now.
Let's let's see if we can find out if this is recorded, and then if it's not, then um if we can figure out for next time how we
Yeah.
record it, because I think it would